Guess who got brands talking? Brandlife.co.za.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurs PitStop, the show that refuels your entrepreneurial drive.
Welcome to the first show of the Entrepreneurs PitStop 2019. Today's our launch show, and I'm personally very excited for the new year. 2019 is filled with so much promise, and we'd like to be the partner in this journey, this entrepreneurial journey, every Thursday from 12 to 1 p.m. In today's show, we lay the groundwork. We let you know on why the Entrepreneurs PitStop was started with a personal touch from me, your host. Seeing that we are all things entrepreneurial journey, we give you an overview of the current state of entrepreneurship in South Africa and some pointers from the real state of the entrepreneurship survey 2018 conducted by the THUD Academy. I speak to entrepreneur, connector of sorts, and innovator, Dr. Selebogo Molefe. Dr. Life's good, actually. Correction there. And we delve into some of the projects he's working on. He's also the co-founder of the People's Fund. I said that correct, hey? One of the biggest black-owned funding agency. And lastly, we give you an overview of co-working spaces around the country that allow you for collaborative working spaces for startups and the opportunity for free networking. Stay tuned.
There's a popular quote going around at the moment. The person you will be in 5 years is based on the books you read and the people you hang around with today. This is quite true, but it applies to everything else as well. The person you will be in the future is based on everything you do today, the people you hang around with, but more so the people you listen to, the opinions you believe, the books you read, or the videos you watch. All the information you take in, positive or negative, will affect your future.
You're tuned into the Entrepreneurs PitStop, brought to you by Bernadette Bule.
Welcome back. So what's the Entrepreneurs PitStop and why are we here? So the Entrepreneurs PitStop was something that I thought about, and as the name suggests, I wanted a radio show that will be for the hustlers, the mavericks, and the aspiring entrepreneurs. We need to sometimes refuel and take a break, and a lot of the times we're so busy being busy that we never take time to refuel, reflect, and actually take some time off on the last business lap we've just finished. Now, the Entrepreneur PitStop gives you information on upcoming networking events, unpacks policy, and what that means for your business. We also do book reviews on business books that we want to read and don't find the time. We speak to business leaders and mavericks who are seemingly out of reach and give you a chance to send your questions and ask anything you'd like to know. We also filter through information overload and help provide relevant information geared to the growth of your business. Before we get into the policy analysis segment, let's take another motivational break.
I'm about to start something. I'm about to stand toe-to-toe with impossible and go hard on nothing. No, you don't know me right now, but damn it, you're gonna love me for my ambition. See, I'm starting something they keep telling me is impossible, but it's a dream that I have, a life that I want, a thing that I do. I've got naysayers standing in line to tell me I'm a fail. I say, I dare you to watch me fail 49 times and see what happens on try number 50. Ooh, I'm about to start something.
You're tuned into the Entrepreneurs PitStop, brought to you by Bernadette Bule.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Bernadette Bule. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernadette Bule. In this segment, we break down policy and make it relevant for you. In today's segment of policy analysis, we give you a breakdown of the Real State of Entrepreneurship survey by the THUD Academy. In its fourth year, the survey not only gives findings about entrepreneurship, but also provides insight into the mindset of our entrepreneurs, learnings, and recommendations. Now, according to the survey, the majority of entrepreneurs in South Africa are between the ages of 25 and 34. The gender split is 47% female. Despite the encouraging increase of a more inclusive economy, business still favors males and youths. What I found encouraging in the survey is the entrepreneurial drive is in the real sense of identifying and seizing opportunities, as opposed to necessity entrepreneurs. Now, the survey shows higher levels of educations, with most South African entrepreneurs having completed a university degree or post-matric diploma. Though the majority of entrepreneurs are between the ages of 25 and 34, research also shows that older entrepreneurs tend to be more successful. We all know that age comes with experience, right? Unfortunately, in terms of profit, while small to medium enterprises contribute 98.5% of the number of formal companies in the country, only 28% account for jobs in our country. Now, these are staggering statistics, and it definitely gives us an overview of what market we are in, and also allows us to, as a show, prepare content that will empower you as an entrepreneur. The survey highlights 3 areas of support required to business for them to grow their business or take the business to the next level. Firstly, it talks about access to markets, access to networks, financial support. Now, mind you, this was the support required as highlighted by entrepreneurs, not the recommendations made by the survey. Now, when researching for the show, I felt it important to highlight the real state of entrepreneurship, to know and have an idea of what we're dealing with, so to take your business to the next level. Before I give you my recommendations, let's listen to the next part of the motivational break.
Said, I'm about to stand toe-to-toe with impossible and go hard on nothing. What is this? I am possible anyway. Oh, I'm sorry. Impossible. The voice of one of my heroes screams constantly in my ear. Impossible is not a declaration, it's a dare. Impossible is potential. Impossible is temporary. Impossible ain't shit.
You're tuned into the Entrepreneurs PitStop, brought to you by Bernadette Bule.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Bernadette. You can find me on Twitter at Bernadette Bule. So in analyzing the survey, here are some recommendations that I'd like to give to our entrepreneurs. First of all, network. It's so important to go out there and talk about who you are. Talk about your brand, know about what's also out there in the market, as opposed to assuming that everyone just wants your product, right? Sometimes there's opportunities for collaboration. Don't just attend every training or incubator program out there, because it does not equate to the access to market. Do your research on the training or the incubator program, i.e., how long is the training? What are the contents of the training? In view of the contents, what business processes do I as an entrepreneur need to improve my business? For example, if you need to improve your invoice system, does the training cover accounting softwares? Does it provide mentorship? And is the mentorship in line with your business? Other recommendation that I'd like to make is sometimes I find that entrepreneurs, we tend to network with people on the exact same level as ourselves. How about looking for networking events with people on a higher profit market than your business? Even if it means paying a little bit more, guys, look at it as an investment in yourself and in your business. A mentor in the same industry as yourself is invaluable. Seek out a mentor you truly look up to. I think when I looked for a mentor, I found someone that was in a completely different space as myself. But even though he was in a different space, he definitely provided guidance in terms of planning and thinking and processing. But it would have been so much more invaluable if I had someone who was in the space that I was running as Bule Connect. Our business looks at cross-border businesses between South Africa, Mozambique, and South Africa. And if I had someone who was in that space for years, I would have learned what he learned in that 20 years, right? So these are just some of my recommendations. I'd like to just finish off with the motivational break before we get into our next segment. Stay tuned.
That's my newfound confidence to say I got this. Listen, I do this because I want this. I want this because I need this. I need this because I breathe this. I breathe this because I understand that in order for me to live the life that I want to live, then I must do what I have to do, or I'm about to start something. Said I'm about to stand toe-to-toe with impossible and go hard on nothing. See, I'm that new guy. I might not get it at the first time I try, but I'm that new inspiration. All my heroes are dead. It's on me now, because I'm about to... No. I just started something. See, I'm standing toe to toe with impossible. I'm going hard. It's nothing. You see, I grew up to be told that your dream is too big, son. What you're doing has been done. Nobody gonna like you. The game is gonna chew you up and spit you out. I say I'm ready. Step up, impossible.
You're tuned into the Entrepreneurs PitStop, brought to you by Bernadette Bule.
Is an exciting segment for me because we tend to speak to the mavericks, the big guys, people that are making it, and we get an understanding of how they got there. I think we always look at entrepreneurs and say, well, I want to be the next Patrice Matsepo. I want to be this. I want to be like Selebogo. There's a journey that the entrepreneurs have to take. So in saying that, I'd like to welcome Selebogo to the show. Lebs, aka Dr. Life's Good. Welcome to the show, Lebu.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Today we speak to Lebu, who is a social entrepreneur but a marketer at heart. His maverick approach to solving problems in Africa has earned him a seat at the entrepreneurial dinner table. As the founder of the Hookup Dinner, a fast-rising, ambitious startup movement for entrepreneurs in Africa, he has the privilege of connecting and engaging with the best minds focused on building a culture of entrepreneurship in Africa. He's also the co-founder of the People's Fund, an asset-based crowdfunding platform that seeks to unlock capital growth constraints for startups in emerging markets. In this segment, I speak to Lebu and I find out the importance of planning ahead. He gives us an understanding of how the People's Funding came about and any upcoming THUD events. Now, I went to one of your vision boarding parties, Lebu, and I found it quite informative. Thanks for making the time. Talk to me about what is a vision board party and the importance of planning.
Well, vision boarding is nothing new. It's in the Bible. In Habakkuk, the prophet talks about writing a vision down, and it's for an appointed time as well. So for me, I try and take things that have already existed and repackage them for the millennial generation.
Sure.
We consume content differently, and we are into experiences, and that has been the critical thing about tapping into wisdom and ancient knowledge and using it for current times in order to prepare for the future. So vision boarding for me is about putting your dreams down on paper and being very intentional about them, and not just dreaming about anything and everything, and being rather focused and very intentional about what it is that you actually want to do, achieve, and how are you going to go about achieving that, and what's going to be your execution plan.
Sure.
And I think the most important part for me in doing these type of workshops is to help people with tools that can kind of guide you and ensure that you can actually execute, which is where we fail most. It's in the execution.
I agree with you. I find that planning is so exciting. It's like the desserts of into a meal, and you like plan and you have all these exciting, you get excited, you get yourself worked up, but in terms of execution, that's when the hard work actually starts, right? Okay. And how long have you been doing vision boarding parties?
Well, I started doing my own vision board in 2015.
Okay.
And saw some results, went back into it in 2016. I was just returning from Mozambique, actually.
Yeah.
In December. And when I did it, and the crazy thing about when you plan is that you're constantly planning for the sunlight, but you don't realize that with that there's also rain that's going to come in, and it comes with the mud. And therefore it's about the ability to take on the responsibility and the sacrifices that come with it, and being able to accept them and acknowledge them, that they're part of the journey. Shortly after I'd done that, I went through a divorce.
Okay.
Crazy things that, and I'm a family man.
Sure.
I'm a pastor's kid, like it's all the things that
don't happen to PKs. Not supposed to happen in my life.
you know. But in hindsight, when I look at my vision board that I did in 2016, I looked at it in late 2017.
Sure.
I was like, whoa, things are happening. And at that time, it was not intentional. I just put it out because it's things I really wanted. And then I started eliminating things. So when I organized one in 2018 with Accenture in January of 2018,
Sure.
got a group of people together, and we became very intentional, like very specific, very focused,
Yeah.
and started building around that. And the feedback I got throughout the year last year was amazing.
Right now.
And also even with my own feedback, when I look at my vision board, I realize that you can achieve a lot of things. You don't have to worry too much about the process, what's going to happen in between, but you have to be very clear on your goal, the end goal, what is it and why that goal. And then you work backwards. The working backwards is the execution plan. And I think it's something that everybody should do. I've been involved in the space of entrepreneurship development for the longest time. And I realized that one of the mistakes that we make as people that build up entrepreneurs is that we focus so much on their businesses that we neglect the actual person behind the business, who's the driver of this thing, you know. And I mentor quite a few of these guys that I've brought up along the food chain. And I realized that some of them, when they start experiencing mental health issues, breakdowns, and all of things that happen, it's because we haven't looked at the other side, you know. And that's the essence of why I do vision boarding. It's about the personal development process first, before tapping into business.
No, well done on that. I mean, funny enough, I went to your vision board 3 weeks ago. The PitStop, the Entrepreneurs PitStop, was one of my goals and one of my vision board stuff. So I'm really excited about it. And I think it's one of those, it takes a different approach to just writing New Year's resolutions. You're so intentional, like you say. You go in the year and your goals are clear. It's crystal clear. You know what you want and you go through it. And it goes back to what you're saying, you know, it constantly reminds you. I mean, that scripture that you talked about in Habakkuk is write a vision down, make it plain on a tablet that he may run who reads it. So every time you wake up in the morning, you see your vision, you're like, okay, let's start up and go, right? That's awesome. What I also found is that we often wait for the end of the year to take stock of our goals and achievements. I'm quickly starting to see the importance of quarterly reviews. Will you be having any more vision board parties anytime soon? And will they be in the form of a review, or will it take a different approach?
Well, look, I target three sets of people. First is the overachievers, people that already know what they're doing. So reviews around such people, it's just an accountability thing where we check in on each other to check how far in are you with your goals and what's happening. And it's just to have somebody that holds you accountable. The other type of person is somebody that's starting out, they're still confused, they don't know what they're doing. So we try and go a bit deeper with those type of people. I would host, whether I'm doing it virtually through a webinar or through a full day boot camp like the one that you attended. And the outcome is meant to be a retreat where we go away for a couple of days. And the critical thing, and actually the reason I love going to Mozambique for these things is that it's a very calming environment. It's in the Indian Ocean, very warm, and Mozambique's got some of the finest beaches in the world, all the way up to Pemba, you know. So I realized that it covers two things for me. On the one side, people get to experience culture a bit differently, but more importantly, what is happening with millennials is that we are very purposeful in our experiences. We don't want you to just have experiences for the sake of it. You don't want to party just for the sake of partying. You want something out of it, and it speaks to the current generation. So when we do these vision boarding sessions, that the intention is to help you dream, help you unleash the thing that is within you, but give you the tools that come with that. Because quite often we get told what to do, but nobody holds us accountable or gives us the tools to be able to achieve this. And that is my intention with it. So there will definitely be quarterly reviews that come up. In fact, you came up with this great idea about doing quarterly, and I love them, you know. I do the retreats quarterly as well. So we go our way to Mozambique or other destinations at least per quarter, and it's with different groups. So I'm trying to reach out to as many people as possible that have never experienced this kind of thing, for them to get the clarity that some of us already have, you know, so that we can all enjoy in the success that will come.
Now, I really like what you talked about, and well done on that. Well done, honestly. I really like what you talked about accountability, and especially for people who don't have mentors. There's no one who's checking you on what you're doing as an entrepreneur. Are you achieving your targets? Are you actually setting out to spend more time with your family? Are you working on your health? It's a balanced approach. You know, you look at every facet of your life, not just the fact that you're trying to push the numbers and push those millions. We're talking about you as a person, and it looks at as a person, as a brand. Before we go on, I'm really enjoying this conversation. Can we go on a motivational break?
The workouts you do or don't do, that will show up in the future. The foods you eat today will affect your future on a visual and energy level. The same is true with your thoughts and information. What you feed your mind will shape your future. If all you do is take in garbage, guess what your future is going to be made up of? Commit to feed your mind with successful thoughts and surround yourself with those who have the same ambition. It doesn't matter where you get your information from. You may read, you may get it from podcasts or videos. It doesn't matter. Just make sure you keep feeding your mind every day.
You're tuned into the Entrepreneurs PitStop, brought to you by Bernadette Bule.
Welcome back. We're getting some positive feedback on our social media platforms. If you want to know who's talking, this is Bernadette. So you can find me on Twitter at Bernadette Bule. Selebogo, please give us your Twitter handle.
Dr. Life's Good.
Awesome stuff.
Good with a GUD.
Yes, Dr. Life's Good. Welcome back. So one of the goals you mentioned in our vision boarding was how you and a close friend set out to achieve the People's Fund and also just achieve those numbers.
Yep.
And you put that on your vision board. Now, in view of the study by the Seed Academy, the People's Fund is the first crowdfunding for Black entrepreneurs. It noted that the majority of the entrepreneurs who wanted funding had been turned away from banking institutions for poor credit scores. Now, just to learn that the capital they required was 30,000 to 50,000. Now, for me as an entrepreneur, I was quite disappointed because it basically said you just needed that small push to make it big, right? Or to have your big breakthrough. But financial institutions are not doing that. Now, what is the role of the People's Fund, and is it catering to this market?
Yeah, so we try and solve our own problems in everything that we do.
Yeah.
I started the hookup dinner because I was shy and I didn't have a network. And we started the crowdfunding platform purely because we were realizing that we're struggling to access finance. So we're like, let's go to the crowd. The best thing that we know how to do is to reach people and convene them and get them together for a common purpose.
Sure.
So how do we use that power for everything else? Financial inclusion, and all sorts of things. So in setting up the People's Fund in 2017, July 2017, actually we did it at my house. It was myself, it was Mzuzugile, who's the founder of Brown Sense.
Okay.
It was Usizwe Zim, and it was Luyanda. Luyanda is the brainchild behind the People's Fund. He looked at the ecosystem, he looked at all of us and was like, guys, let's come together and do something. And the outcome of it was we realized that the networks exist, but there's systemic exclusion of entrepreneurs, and if it's not race, it's according to your social profile, where you are in the value chain, in the food value chain, you know. So we looked at all of that and said, let's try and democratize this and see what happens, you know. And we're very fortunate that we've been able to reach we're talking about 3.5 million now that we've raised through the crowd. That we finance entrepreneurs and they pay back the money and we hold them accountable. So the most consistent theme for me for the past 2 years has been about accountability. For everybody. And anybody that knows Lebo knows that I crack the whip. I hold entrepreneurs accountable to what they say on social media when it comes to the space, what they talk about, what they cry about. There's some that will cry about access to markets, and then we open up those markets because we've got the links. Our platforms have enabled us to be able to speak to decision makers. And if those entrepreneurs don't deliver, we're the first to crack the whip on them. Just when we're on our way here with my colleague, one of the entrepreneurs got a gig and the customer's complaining. I had to call him up and we sort these things out. And purely what I'm trying to go to is before people can trust you with money, they've got to trust you with your service, because business is built at the speed of trust, you know. And that is what we're trying to fix. There's many problems. We talk about the issue of access to finance, but there's actually deeper problems. Discipline. Some of the things that we ask for before we fund you, we ask you for your bank statement. So we want to see your behavior in your own account. How are you behaving with money? You know. So we realize that one of the bigger problems is that financial literacy is a big challenge, and that's what we're trying to solve. So through these insights that we gain continually, we try and solve those problems. So we're going to be doing a mega drive this year around financial literacy and making sure that entrepreneurs and non-financial people actually understand what it is, what they're looking at when they're looking at an income statement or a balance sheet, what those things mean, you know,
Yes.
because most of it speaks over our heads,
Yeah.
and we're realizing now that your relationship with money extends into business, and
Yeah.
if you to get funding from anybody, it's because you understand how money works.
And I really appreciate what you're saying, because I've had people who come up to me and say, look, this organization is giving some funding to this value, and I think to myself, it's almost like a student loan, guys. If you don't know if you're not disciplined in your studies, don't go for student loan. If you're not disciplined in your business, don't go for funding, because it's just going to put you as a business at risk as well. And we're not even talking the accountability to the organization you provided, but as a person, you get so engulfed with all these finances and you think, well, and I'm an entrepreneur. That's not entrepreneurship, in my opinion. Give me your definition of entrepreneurship, and what are the misconceptions of it?
For me, it's as simple as solving problems that get you paid and problems that have got scale. So in other words, if this problem exists, can it exist beyond your local environment?
Sure.
Can you solve it in another country? Can you solve it globally? And if the answer is yes, you're an entrepreneur.
Before we started the show, Lebu, we were talking about how people always just look for business in the South African context. Now, both our businesses are beyond just South Africa. Why do we have such a mindset, in your opinion, and how do we change it?
A lot of it has got to do with how we are socialized.
Yeah.
Our market is similar to the American market in the sense that because we have infrastructure, we tend to think everything is fine. And what you don't realize as a South African is that you are the least exposed. And some of the most exposed people, for instance, are from Zimbabwe, and Mozambique, Kenya. They've traveled globally. They know global trends. They know what's going on out there. The average South African hasn't left Soweto in the past 10 years. I know people in Soweto that haven't left Soweto, never mind going elsewhere, just leaving Soweto, coming to town.
Yeah.
Haven't left the place for the longest of time. And
That's tragic.
yeah, and that just speaks to exposure. And so we, as much as it is our duty for us who are exposed to kind of find ways that empathize with the situation, but then cracking the whip and getting people out of it.
Absolutely. One of the questions I wanted to ask you was how important, going back to the accountability thing, and we're laying the groundwork for the show. We're saying that this show will motivate your business, but we want to help you as a business to be focused and give you inspirational learnings from what we talk about, to give you some stuff that will really empower you as a business. How important is friendship or friends in the entrepreneurial space for you?
Very, very important. As we know, the journey of entrepreneurship is a roller coaster journey.
It's a lonely one as well.
Yeah, extremely lonely. And you've got to have your tribe. If you don't have your tribe, you're in trouble. Your mental health is at stake, and you will lose it quite often, not just once. You will lose it quite a lot, because you will find yourself in deals that are not predictable. You will sign a deal with the corporate, and 6 months later you haven't been paid. Those are the realities of business, and you are not unique to those problems. So the question is, do you have social insurance, and what your social currency, can it stand the time? And that just means simply being nice to people. So build authentic friendships, find people that can sharpen you, find people that can add value. I often say that the 5 people that you hang with make up, like if let's make it a practical example. If you earn 5,000 rand,
Sure.
and a lot of your friends earn between 4,000 and 6,000 rand, that's pretty much your income base. You're not going to grow beyond that.
Yeah.
But if you earn 5,000 rand and the majority of your friends earn 25,000 rand, you're going to move up the food chain. You're guaranteed. There's no other way, because they operate in a different space altogether, and what you are trying to do is move up that value chain in the same way. And it's one of those very critical things. And when I speak about social insurance, you can reach out to those friends
Yes.
if you need them to bail you out. But also, you've got to build that accountability thing and make it very strong. They almost become like your advisory board. You know, you need people who are going to be very honest with you when you're screwing up and say, look, we're not going to give you money because of X. I've got friends that come and borrow money and I have it and they can see it and say, no, I don't want to. Not that I don't have it. So I've moved away from the language of saying I don't have it to I have it, but I'm not going to borrow you because you're not disciplined with the money. You know, you don't show that I can trust you with this. It's a responsibility thing. So having friends that are really authentic and real with you is one of the most critical things you can do for yourself as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. I think it's a mind shift, and I like you talked about the 5,000 and 25,000. The conversations are so different.
Exactly.
Right? You don't just
problems
talk.
are different.
The problems are different. And it's definitely something that I think as a person, it pushes you to want to dream more. I'm really enjoying this conversation. Let's take a motivational break before we finish it up.
Your future self is begging you to show some discipline. Your future self is begging you not to be like the rest, to learn more than the rest, to work harder and smarter than the rest. Your future self is begging you to do the work now so you can enjoy later. If you don't feed your mind with success, it will rot with mediocrity. What you do every day will dictate your future. What you want out of life, you must put it in. If you want success, put it in there. If you want health and fitness, put it in. If you want peace and happiness, put it in. Your actions will equal your results.
You're tuned into the Entrepreneurs PitStop, brought to you by Bernadette Bule.
Welcome back. We're having such an interesting conversation with Dr. Life's Good. We're about to finish off that conversation. If you've been listening, look him up on your Twitter handle again.
Dr. Life's Good. That's DRLIFESGUD.
Yes. Selebogo, I'd like to just pose a few more questions before we finish it off. How many startups or SMEs has your fund helped to date?
On the asset side, we've funded about 20.
Okay.
So we've had over 1,000 applications, but we're very rigorous.
Okay.
So it's not free money.
Yeah.
And the reason it's not free money is because we set up a stock file. We call it the people stock file. Everybody contributes 100 Rand into the stock file. We take that money, we fund entrepreneurs, and the promise is that we're going to get that money back. So we make sure that we hold the entrepreneurs accountable, and those that don't qualify for the money, we find ways to help them to clean their act up until, And then on the side of purchase order financing, which is where we've moved a whole lot more. So you get a purchase order from government or from corporate, and you don't have the cash flow to service it. You come to us, and we after we've done the due diligence, we go through the measures. On that side, I think we've funded close to 50 now. It's a young fund, but we've already funded over 3 million, and we've got about a 98% payback, so which is quite great.
What does that look like in money value? Can you tell me?
Let's put it this way: you come to us to borrow 100 Rand.
Yeah.
We charge you 6% on top of that, so it comes back as 106 Rand. Because the payback period is on average about 30 to 40 days, we are able to rinse that money, at least cycle it at least 6 times in a year. So we make some really good money out of it. And yet the entrepreneur does not suffer. I think that that was our motivation, especially going to purchase order financing. A lot of entrepreneurs get offered finance at the highest rate, and then they actually work for the purchase order and they don't make money out of it. So we're trying to solve those problems because we've experienced them ourselves.
No, kudos to you guys. And one of the frustrations I found as an entrepreneur is that you've got the capability. It's not that you can't do the business. It's just you don't have the capital. And for someone like myself who's very particular about getting funding, it's definitely a model that I would take as a business or I would apply for. How many of your startups have come through the hookup dinner?
There's a lot, eh? I mean, if you just go through media platforms, you look at guys like Skinny Spoo. He's now in 30 stores, 30 Markham stores nationwide. Sure. Those are guys that come to us for funding. So we finance the deals to go into such stores. If you look at somebody like the Lazy Makoti, she's come through our platform. She initially got funding about 3 years ago, and she's a superstar now. She's got a book.
I've seen her book at
TV
Woolies.
shows,
I was so proud of it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of those kind of entrepreneurs that come through our platform. Tsepo, the gene maker, he's making waves right now. He's got his brand is out in Amsterdam. We funded him through the People's Fund last year. So there's a lot of those kind of stories that will continually keep emerging, and that's not how we keep score. How we keep score is on impact. I mean, I think we are focused on sustainability more than anything. We want to see that the average entrepreneur that we support lives beyond the cursed 2-year mark, and the average entrepreneur who's been within the Hookup Dinner network, we're seeing them rise with us as we go through the ups and downs. So it's a partnership. We're not an incubator. We're not an accelerator. We're that friend that holds your hand all the way until you can actually run.
I like that. I like the partnership. I like the collaborative approach that you guys take, and well done on that.
Thank you.
Tell people what the Hookup Dinner is. We keep talking about it, and we assume that everyone knows. So you have a popular saying about what the Hookup Dinner is.
Yeah. Well, look, at the Hookup Dinner, we connect, engage, and contribute to each other's success. So we're a collaborative network of people that are thinking about business, people that are in business, and people that have been in business, and we try and find ways to help each other. So we focus on 3 real things. One is community. We've built up a community across the continent as well as the UK, where there's regular meetups on a monthly basis where people get together, they pitch ideas to each other, peer to peer, and they help each other to refine those ideas. And then the networking. One of the hardest things to do is network. You get to a networking event and you're probably going to speak to 1 or 2 people. We become very intentional about that to make sure that you walk out having known at least 10 new people, but also not just because we introduced you to each other. It's in a social setting, and it breaks the ice, and then the master classes within the Hookup Dinner are the most critical thing for me. It's about learning. We invite people that have walked the journey, people that have got insights, and people that can share something, can contribute something of value, and what we are focusing on as a theme for this year is access. Access in 2 parts. One is access to markets and access to funding. All of it is preceded by access to markets. Entrepreneurs are struggling to break ground right now, and it's systemic structures. South Africa was never built for to be a competitive environment for the small business market. It was built for corporates. It was built to be a few collective
monopolies.
And who employ many. But that has broken up because of globalization. So we have to rethink our model for everybody, and that's the critical thing. We're trying to find ways of enabling people to access the networks around them and make sure that they can actually trade and do business. And then all of that is held up by accountability. And we try and make sure that the peer-to-peer network that we have is about, we all hold each other accountable. If you're screwing up, we call you out, we chastise you, and then we get you back in there.
Cracking that whip.
It's very, very important.
Any upcoming THUD events we should look out for?
Yeah, in fact, we've got a THUD event coming up tomorrow evening. It's the first one of the year.
Sure.
We're reporting, it's almost like our AGM. So we've collected just over 700,000 Rand from the crowd with anybody contributing 100 Rand a month. The last time when we held one, January last year, we were sitting on, I think it was 200,000 Rand at the time. So for us to be at 700,000 Rand a year later, just from the stokvel, says a lot about the power of the community and how stokvels can unlock capital for investment into small businesses. And our role is to make sure that we are holding the people that get funded accountable, and we're making sure that we're walking the journey with them, we're developing them and opening up those markets, because we've solved the finance issue. So now we need to solve the market issue.
These are like African solutions for African problems.
Yeah, and this is why I said all that we need to do is to tap into ancient history and ancient wisdom. All the answers already exist. There's nothing new that we are going to come up with. It's just about how we package it in the modern age and we modernize these solutions.
Well done. Any words of advice to entrepreneurs listening to this conversation?
Look, it's a hard journey. To build your entrepreneurship business will take you about 7 years of no rest before you actually take time out. The minimum is 7 years. So if you're looking for a quick flash in the pan, get a job and then do the business as a side hustle. There's many ways to make money. You don't have to start a business and quit your job. It's not the piper's dream or whatever that we call it. It's actually a really hard journey, and it's a lonely one, and it's going to test you in every possible way. If you are still in your 20s and you're starting a business, leave relationships alone, because they're going to fail. It's just one of those things that happen. Ask any legendary entrepreneur or research them, and you'll realize that it's just part of the sacrifice that comes with it, because you are going to be married to your business and your dreams, and as a result of that, everything else around you is going to suffer. So find ways of making sure that you don't drag other people along for such. Like, you can always get into a relationship later, but if you are in your 30s or late 30s and you're just starting into or getting into business, find ways to balance, because now you've got kids and you've got family and whatnot. Make sure that you don't quit your business unless you've got at least 12 months savings of your salary, because whatever that you've planned 3 times worse is going to happen, and you're going to lose your money. It's part of the journey. Like, those are the realities, unfortunately. But there is a silver lining. The freedom that comes with being able to make your own decisions comes with the sacrifices as well. So it's not all doom and gloom.
It's not all doom and gloom. But you've just opened up another exciting conversation, though. And I want to talk about that before I let you go.
Yeah.
I think a lot of stereotypes is that for you to be an entrepreneur, you need to quit your job entirely, and you just need to make that sacrifice and go in head first. And one of the things people don't consider, you have medical aid, guys.
Exactly.
When you're an entrepreneur, there's no medical aid. You're paying rent, or you there's some way you have a roof above your head when you're on a full-time job. People don't consider the part-time entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship doesn't have to be something where you quit your job, you know, and say, okay, I'm out, I'm doing this, right? What are your perceptions on that, or the misconceptions of entrepreneurship?
Do you see why I've gone into vision boarding so much? It is because once you've helped a person create clarity in their minds about how they can be enterprising, it does not mean quitting your job at all. We've made the mistake of preaching entrepreneurship and saying it's sexy.
Yes,
it's not. It's one of the hardest things you'll do. Why? Because there's no fence. There's nothing that holds you up when you're down, and your family turns against you. Your friends say you're crazy. Everybody thinks you're a lunatic, and those are the realities. And because you are in such an environment, don't do it stupidly. It's just not worth it. It's not worth losing everything for a dream that you are not sure about. Rather, stay on with your job and start your side hustle. Do as much research as possible. Understand something. Business is a science. Entrepreneurship is an art. And you've got to mix the two. The science part means you study the market that you are in. You've done your research. You are testing with your customers. And you only quit your job when your customers are buying more and you're actually making more money than your job. And therefore, you're making a calculated decision. As a matter of fact, real entrepreneurs are risk averse. There's this notion that entrepreneurs take the risk. They jump without a parachute. It's one of the biggest lies ever told. Don't believe it. Entrepreneurs take calculated risks. Yeah.
What I found interesting in line of what you're saying is the Seed Academy research on the real state of entrepreneurship is that about, I think they said over, let me not say the numbers incorrectly, but there was a bigger number of part-time entrepreneurs who were making more money than the full-time entrepreneurs who don't even have a client base. So they in full-time business, they don't have any cash flow, they don't have any client base. And it really is a misconception, guys. If you want to go into business, do your research, like you say. Understand your market, because sometimes what you do is you'll leave your job, run your business. If you're making exactly what you made if you were working. Would it not be better to have multiple streams of income as opposed to just one? Yeah. Well, it's been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed having you on the show. I think you said your parting words. Anything else that you want to impart, just that little bit of gold, Nyana, that you've got in your head?
I think believing in our dreams is very important. And having very clear goals, it's very critical. But take a step back. Question as to why you do it. And also solve problems. Don't be a lifestyle entrepreneur if you don't have a base. If you're not being followed by anybody, and if, for instance, at a party, you're not the person that makes it pop, you don't have to start a lifestyle business because nobody's going to buy from you, Once you understand that, if you understand what the science around networks is, then it becomes easier because you're solving actual problems, and then you can infuse passion into that, not the other way around. Don't believe the fall in love with your job or fall in love with the business. Like, that comes later. First of all, you've got to solve problems. Why? Because your customers' problems are not necessarily the things that you love, but they're the things that get you paid. And they pay for the dream that you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. This is the end of our segment. We're about to go into the fourth segment.
You're tuned into the Entrepreneurs PitStop, brought to you by Bernadette Bule.
Well, I've been having a lot of fun, and I think having guests like Dr. Life's Good is definitely something that we want to do going forward. If you have any suggestions for the show, if there's any speakers you'd like us to put on show and put them on the mic, let me know. Hit me up at Bernadette Bule on my Twitter account, or check out our website at www.buleconnect.com. As you know, this show is sponsored by Bule Connect. In this segment, we give you insights into events to look out for this week. So Dr. Life's Good mentioned one event, which is tomorrow, the hookup dinner. It's going to be at Maboneng. Another event that's happening, which is actually tonight, it's called Opportunities Available for Startups. What's your game plan? That's with the Startup Grind, and the host or the speaker would be Mark Ashton. It starts at 6 p.m. tonight. The location is in Greenway, so just check up the Startup Grind website for the events in Johannesburg. If you are in Joburg, if you are looking for events in Cape Town, also the Startup Grind, they have another event happening on next week, Wednesday, the 6th of February. It's called Let's Talk Social Media and the Cultural Megatrends with Dave Duarte from Tree Shake. Now, I might have said David Duarte differently, but in Portuguese it's David Duarte, so that's how I know how to say it. It starts at 5:30. It's going to be held at the waterfront in Cape Town. And lastly, an event that I've actually, when I was running my business full time in Mozambique, the Internations was quite an interesting platform to network, even though it wasn't just with entrepreneurs, but it allowed me to have access to other people in the corporate space. And if I wanted to do business with those different businesses in the market, I had someone in there. So Internations will be hosting a fancy pool party at the Sands in Sandton on Friday, the 8th of February. At 7 p.m. If there's any other events that you guys would like us to notify, please hit me up at Bernadette Bule, or hit me up at Bernadette@buleconnect.com, or Brand Live at info@brandlive.co.za. Another insight I'd like to give you guys, I found working spaces to be quite helpful. Working from home didn't cut it. It's such a lonely experience. So I started looking at working spaces and it, like I said, it provides free networking. You have access to Wi-Fi. You have access to lunch, a nice space where you can buy lunch and nice fresh water. So some spaces that I'd like to mention is the Josie Hub, the Standard Bank Incubator in Rosebank, and then the Impelo co-working space in Greenside. If there's any other spaces that you'd like us to announce on our show, please email us. And that's that for the show. I'd like to thank the Seed Academy for the Real State of Entrepreneurship survey that they did for 2018. Dr. Life's Good or Selebogo Molefe. Galax Boy for the I'm About to Start Something campaign. I found it to be so motivational. And the production team that has helped me put together this show. Thank you to everybody, and that's it from me. See you next week Thursday from 12 to 1. Hit me up at Bernadette Bule. Thanks so much. That's it for me.